Wow, good morning. Man, what a great turnout today. We're really excited for everybody that's here. It's kind of, I don't know, like I kind of got warring emotions because I'm like, man, this is great, all these people here. And then I'm thinking about, the people that aren't here, the people that can't be here too. It's kind of like this. Does that make sense, what I'm saying at all? A little bit bittersweet. What do you say we just all get together again in heaven? Does that sound like a good plan? We just plan on that, please. Would you plan on that? I hope that you will. Listen, we want to do life with God because then we do life better together. And that's what we're really about here, is trying to figure that out. And, I was thinking, all these people, I'm so bad with names. I mean, I really am. And I'll have people ask me, like, hey, you were talking to them. Who are they again? I'm like, I wish I remembered their name, but they're here, so you should talk to them and ask them their name, okay? And I was also thinking, we got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of stuff going on, and I hope you participate in that. I feel like it's so important, some of these smaller activities that we have, that you come because we want to get to know you better, but it's hard sometimes, especially in the chaos of Sunday. And so, this Friday, we've got a youth night coming up. Is that right, this Friday? My wife and Keith. I look at my wife always, Keith, but Keith is actually, him and Sarah heading that up. So that's 6 to 9, and that's for ages, high school and under is what we're focused on there, high school and under. And then next Sunday, we've got Donut Sunday coming up. Before class, we get together and have coffee and donuts, 9:15 to 9:45. Really encourage you to come out to that if you can. Tuesday Bible study, we meet at 11 o'clock. That's for if you're retired or you're a preacher, because I'm always there. So encourage you to come to that. We're starting a study on the Holy Spirit, and it's going to be challenging, I promise. I'm scared of it. I didn't want to do it, but it's Tracy's fault, so I'll blame her. And then also it's a young adult group that meets at my house on the third and fourth Sunday afternoon. It's kind of a new thing. It's for older. It's not for younger. But it's a young adult group, and that's something good too. So anything, just talk to us, and I hope that you'll get plugged in somewhere to something to kind of just have a better connection here. So we went on vacation last week. Went to Cedar Point, and really thankful for that. My family and I, we took a week and went up there, and had a really good time. I don't know if I deserved a vacation, but I took one. So we went. And it was awesome. We rode all the rides. The ones you told us not to ride, the Siren's Curse that's broke down like 5 times since it opened. We rode it twice. It was great. Didn't have to walk down or anything. And my boys love rides. They do. They absolutely love rides. And even Isaac, he is only 8, but he will ride anything at all. And some parents are like, I don't understand. My kids don't ride nothing. How do your kids take them to Camden Park when they're young? If you can survive Camden Park, the most deadly amusement park in America when you look at it, you can survive anything. We took Levi when he was 2, and he wasn't tall enough, but I went to the guy working. I was like, hey, can we put him on the Big Dipper? And he looks at Levi, and he looks at Amy, and he looks at me, and he's like, yeah, just hold him down good. We're like, okay, yeah. And he couldn't talk long because he had to get back to the handbrake to stop the ride. Any coaster that still uses a handbrake, like if you can survive that, I'm not scared of Siren's Curse. Give me a break, right? That's easy. We had a really good trip, though. Isaac loved it. We did have one incident. Isaac passed out on Top Thrill 2. It's the coaster that goes 120 miles an hour, launches you 3 different times, hit about 4 Gs, and he passed out. He missed about the whole ride. He came to when we stopped, and he was crying because he's never passed out before. So we were consoling him, as good parents should. And then we failed miserably as parents because I didn't buy the picture. Can you believe that? Like, he was like this. And that would have been a great memory, right? But no, we're really good parents. And so I told him, because we went 2 days, I told him the next day, you were probably just dehydrated. You ever do that as a parent? You don't know if what you're saying is true, but you're just trying to make something up so it works. You were probably just, so he's going around like, I'm going to ride Top Thrill again. I was just dehydrated. And he did. He rode it again. and he stayed awake, and it was his favorite ride. Wasn't it, Isaac? You're welcome. See what good parents we are? Man, it was a good week, and it was really weird for me because it was coming off of a really hard week. And it just made me think a lot about the dichotomy that we live with. You ever think about what it means to be human? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you ever think about what it means to be human? It's this messy, complex, challenging, difficult, yet in some ways very simple and straightforward truth that we live with. So God made us how? In His image. And then He breathed into us the breath of life, His Spirit, right? That's what that word there in Hebrew can mean, spirit or breath or wind. It's a really cool word. I'm not going to get into that. You know my word with the ruach. We won't go there. Sorry. But, so you have all that like as you sit here, you have all this potential and all this capacity for goodness and love and beauty and creativity because you were made in the image of God. And it's all right there, just waiting to be poured out into the world and to bring goodness and godliness to other people's lives and to yours. But there's something fighting us, isn't there? Because are we always really good, loving, patient, kind, merciful, forgiving people? Is that what we are when we wake up in the morning? Now there's this human side, right? In Genesis 3:19, God says, from dust you came and to dust you're going to... So there's this flesh, there's this limited side of us. And what happens is that limited side takes over a lot of times. And it makes us greedy and impatient because I don't have time and I need more for me and I'm not worried about you because I'm focused on the flesh. And it makes us unloving and it makes us unkind and it damages all these relationships in our life and in our world. And so what are we doing here? What are we about as we try to battle with both this potential and these limitations that we face as humans? And what I'm really getting at is, what is the fruit that our lives yield? Now, we got to take a moment here because the world tells us, the world has its own version of good fruit, doesn't it? It says, here's the things that matter. Here's what your life needs to be about. Here's how you achieve and attain value and significance. We're judged by our house. How big is it? How nice is it? Whenever you build a house, what's one of the first questions they ask you? How many square feet, right? Because we want to know, and we want to know because we know how many square feet our house is, and if your house is bigger than my house, you're better. I guess. How manicured our lawn is, that matters to us, doesn't it? Why? Why does that matter to us? Because people, if our house is near the road, what do people do? They drive by and they see it. They see that looks nice there. They've done a really nice job. Who cares? But we do. I don't know why. How shiny our cars are. Anybody here got an issue there? I do sometimes. The week before we left on vacation, I was going absolutely nuts because everything was happening, a lot of serious stuff. And then on my to-do list was all the weeds and clean out the garage and the cars that my wife ended up doing her own car. I felt like a failure of a husband. She cleaned out her own car because I didn't have time. And all this stuff is happening, right? And I'm getting stressed over all these things. And I just kind of stopped. And we went on vacation and I took some time and I thought, you know what? I'm so obsessed with the wrong fruit. It's really sad. It's actually depressing to me. Worldly fruit is about visible and shining, always glorifying yourself, making you look good and successful and important. But it is more show than substance because you are dust. And all the stuff you're worried about is going to be dust too, more than likely, isn't it? It doesn't last. Looks can be deceiving, can they not? Look again here at Matthew 21. What a great section of Scripture this is. just all these things happen together. We're not going to read all of it, but I'm going to fill in the gaps. In Matthew 21, verse 18. By the way, what's Jesus headed toward at this time? Anything big coming up on his to-do list or his schedule? He's headed to the cross. He's getting ready to die an unjust death with immense suffering and shame and humiliation for you and me sitting here today. He's about to pour out his life for us. And on the way, it says in verse 18, in the morning as he was returning to the city, going back to Jerusalem, he became hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the wayside, he went to it, and he found nothing on it, only leaves. And he said to it, may no fruit ever come from you again. And the fig tree, it withered at once. Have you ever sat around thinking, man, I wish I was alive when Jesus was alive so I could have followed him? You ever thought that before? Like, I would like to walk with him. I'm going to tell you right now, you and I would have struggled. We would have struggled. And one of the number one reasons we would have struggled is because our pace of life today is in such a hurry. Man, we're hurried, aren't we? I'm a fast walker. My kids, my wife complain about it. At the theme park, I was leaving them in the dust all the time. I was just motoring on. And Amy's like, Joseph, slow down. Isaac, we don't even know where he is anymore. I'm like, he'll catch up when we get to the ride. When I got something on my mind, I've got to go. And I blame it on my mother and Aunt Connie. They did a little power walking stint when I was younger. I still remember the balloons they came home with from a race that they placed in. You know, power walking, it's like, and I think about that. Have you ever in your life envisioned Jesus as a power walker when you read about him? I don't think that he was. I don't think it would have worked. I mean, can you see him motoring along? Peter, John, hurry up. I got a fig tree to curse and lepers. The hill is 12:20 already. We got to go. That wasn't him. As a matter of fact, when you read about Jesus, one of the number one things that stands out about him, he was interruptible, was he not? He was very interruptible. Jesus would often detour and sidetrack at any significant, valuable moment. Normally included people, didn't it? You know, the things that are always getting in our way so we can get our hurried list done. Jesus was always interrupted by those things. And he seemed kind of happy to stop for him along the way. Our world is always in a hurry. And so I'm reading this here in Matthew 21, and I have to think to myself, what was going through the minds of his followers? Because everybody else is in a hurry and chasing what matters, and the disciples, they know something big's going on here. They know something major is coming, and they're going back to Jerusalem, and all of a sudden, Jesus, he just stops. And he walks off the road a little ways, and he wanders up to this fig tree. And he starts bending the branches, and he's looking, and they're sitting there off back on the road. And what's he doing? We got to go, don't we? Like, something big's happening this week. And all of a sudden, he's peeling back the leaves, and then he gets mad. And I assume he yelled. It doesn't say that he yelled, but when he curses the fig tree, I have to think he said it in a stern voice. I don't think he was like, okay, now, no fruit again from you. I think it was probably like, you're cursed. No more fruit. You are done. What a weird interaction that is. You ever look at that and think how odd it is? This next section, as we keep going here in Matthew 21, Jesus starts telling some parables. Now, we're a fruit-producing society. We want to do something. We want to make a mark. We want to leave something memorable. But what Jesus is going to challenge you on here is, are you just a show? Are you a big bag of hot air? Are you a man or a woman with an impressively full calendar, but a pitifully empty soul? What fruit are you about? Whose fruit are you about? And so he starts telling all these interrelated parables as he encounters the religious folk in Jerusalem that day. He says, let me tell you about a couple of sons. A father went to the sons, and to the first one he said, I need you to go work in the vineyard. Now, what do you get out of the vineyard? You get fruit, don't you? He's like, I need you to go get me some fruit. Go do something good. And that first son, he said, nah, busy today, Dad, don't want to go. And then he goes to the second son, and he says to him, I need you to go work in the vineyard. And that son says, yes, sir, I'll be there. I'm not like that worthless other guy you got for a kid. Sorry about him, by the way. I'll do what you want, Dad. But here's the twist. You remember what happens in this parable? The first son that said, I'm not going, something happened. I always wonder what changed. Guilt, consciousness, thinking about who Dad is and how much he loves me. You know what? I'm going to go do what Dad wants. And so he works in the vineyard. But that other son, the one that was all talk and show and look at me, he didn't go. And then Jesus, he gives this really offensive, awful statement. He starts talking about prostitutes and tax collectors. Now, he's talking to the religious elite of his day, and he says, prostitutes and tax collectors, they listen and change better than you do. And they'll go into the kingdom of heaven before you. This whole fruit thing, by the way, man, there's such a backstory to this. Like the Old Testament and fruit and vineyard. You know what I'm talking about? Can I tell you just a little bit of it? I'm going to anyway. I don't know why I asked, but act like you want me to. Be like, yeah, come on, give it to us. We want it really bad. So going back to Isaiah chapter 5, so important, this chapter. If you don't know it, you need to go home and you need to read it. You need to wrestle with it, spend some time with it. Because God, he sings a song for his beloved. And he calls it a vineyard. It's an allegory. And Israel, the nation of Israel, is his vineyard that he made a pleasant planting of. And it gives this long description about all the things he did to make sure this vineyard produced what? Fruit, good fruit. That's all he wanted from them was good fruit. And so it gives all this stuff that he did for him. And after he did all this work and all this careful planning, and he built a fence around it, and he took care of it, what kind of fruit did he get? It says wild grapes in verse 2 and 4. It's a really bad translation, by the way. It's not wild grapes. It translates more literally stinky things. Rotten fruit. Spoiled, disgusting, worthless, unedible. He says, that's what you've given me with the life that you've lived. And he even gets a little specific at points. It says in verse 7 that he looked at his pleasant planning, and what are the things that he wanted? He wanted things like justice, but all he got was bloodshed. And he wanted things like righteousness, but all he got was an outcry of abuse and mistreatment, and he could hear the moans of the victims. In other words, a bunch of people focused on who? Self at the expense of others. He says, that's what you were about. You were about the world and the world's fruit, and it shows. And so you have like all this background hitting here as Jesus tells these parables in Matthew 21. He tells another parable about some tenants, and we're not going to go into detail on this because I don't want to keep you here. Well, I mean, I wouldn't care to keep you here all morning, but you might care because you're in a hurry, right? You got a lot of things to do, like we always are. We're not very interruptible. We got things on our schedule, on our day. I'll try to be sensitive to it as I can. But in this second parable Jesus tells, he talks about some tenants, and it's about a vineyard again. And he says the master gave these tenants this vineyard, and then he started sending servants to collect his fruit, right? The stuff he was owed, the goodness that he wanted out of it. And whenever the servants showed up, what did they do to them? They mistreated them. They kill some of them. And then he sends his son, doesn't he? And what do they do to his son? Because the master's like, well, surely they'll listen to my son. And they kill the son, thinking they're going to take the vineyard for themselves. And they get all the fruit and all the glory and all the stuff. And so you tie all this together. Back in 21:42, Jesus said to them, have you never read in the scriptures, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone? This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people producing its fruits. And the one who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces. And when it falls on anyone, it will crush him. The stone, by the way, is Jesus, if you're wondering. Jesus is the stone here. And he's the one the people he's talking to are tripping over because they don't understand the kind of fruit that God is looking for in our lives, the things that matter. And Jesus says, you're either going to build your life around me, that cornerstone, the foundation of the kingdom of God, or it is going to crush you like the dust that you are. And your life will be left as nothing. Verse 43 really hits hard here. The kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people producing its fruit. So you think about all this together. Remember the fig tree? Why did he curse it? No fruit. Remember the son who was all talk and the one who went and cultivated some fruit that the father wanted? And remember the tenants who tried selfishly just to amass for themselves instead of giving the fruit back to its rightful owner? And there's a question buried in this. What fruit is our life producing? And who are we producing it for? The things that we pour ourselves into and obsess over and worry about, is it the right fruit? Do we understand there's so much false fruit that our lives can revolve around, that fruit of the world, made by a people of dust to return to dust? And I want you to think about this specifically in some areas. Think about it, for example, at home. In our homes, worldly fruit looks like what? Control, perfectionism. You have it all together. You're that all-American family. You present Instagram-worthy photos at least every week, and everybody looks at you and says, oh, wow, amazing. There's constant busyness in your lives, and your family's done everything and tried every restaurant and vacationed at every must-see destination, and inside you are empty and tired and angry and probably broke. What does fruit of the kingdom look like at home? How about confession? I was wrong. Forgive me. What about patience? Slow down. Be interruptible for your kids. Teach them a hurried life is not a good one. What about creating margin, creating space for meaningful presence and relationship and conversation? Does your family know what the dinner table even is? Have they been there lately? Man, our world is so good at posting all over anything online, all the causes we support and all the things that we're about, and oh, we're sending up prayers for this country and this person. Do you know your neighbor's name? Have you ever had them over for dinner? What about fruit production at school, at work? What's the world about? World fruit. Ladder climbing, top of the class, biggest promotion, all the success, recognition, dominating the competition so we can be number one. What do you think kingdom fruit looks like here? What about integrity? Do you do what's right even when no one watches? What about servanthood? Did Jesus ever talk about serving others, by the way? How many times have we grumbled at work? I'm not letting them take advantage of me like this. I'm not. I don't get paid for that. Is that what Jesus said when he was washing feet? I didn't get paid for this. I ain't washing your feet. I ain't being a servant. Nobody's walking all over me. We got the wrong fruit in focus, don't we, church? What about generosity? Helping others when it doesn't benefit you. Relationships. Worldly fruit says cut off those who don't deserve you. Hold a grudge. They had it coming. They weren't worthy of you. Protect yourself at all costs. Kingdom fruit says forgive. Mercy over bitterness. Be loyal and stick with others even when it's inconvenient. Listen and value others. We could do this all day. The public square in general. Our world is about tribalism and outrage and performance and shaming others. The kingdom is about, What about peacemaking? That doesn't get a lot of time on the nightly news, does it? But Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Man, I'd like that title, wouldn't you? Listen, the fruit of the world is impressive and immediate and about you. But the fruit of the kingdom is often quite small and quiet, and it's about others and glorifying God. And I just want you to think real quick here of a simple question, because I was thinking about it. Coming off a really hard week and then vacation, I looked back at that hard week. I felt like I was misguided. Like I didn't do anything horrible. I just needed a different mindset. Does that make sense? And so I'm asking, what did I produce or accomplish that'll matter 100 or 1,000 years from now? And if the answer is nothing, I must have been working in the wrong harvest too much. Maybe you were too. Pouring your time and attention and energy into the kind of fruit that looks good to the world but doesn't last. We're going to take this further tonight, talk about who actually produces the fruit in our lives. Spoiler, it's not you. But we have to be in the right place, walk in step with the right one for it to occur. But maybe this morning you already know. Maybe you know your life is about the wrong fruit. And if you know it, I sincerely pray right now that God will convict you in this and help you to reorient your life on Him. And there's a lot of practical things we can talk about, but it always starts with putting the right thing in the middle of your life, doesn't it? Jesus talks about this a little bit. He says, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Love others, love your neighbors yourself. He calls it the great commandment and the really close runner-up commandment. He doesn't say it that way. That's my paraphrase, okay? He says this is the first and great commandment, and the second is like it. It's about God and others. What was your fruit focused on? If it wasn't God and it wasn't others, there's only one guilty party left, isn't there? Aren't you glad that Jesus wasn't focused on the fruit the world's focused on? Can you imagine how many less times he would have stopped for somebody in need? Can you imagine what his mindset would have been toward the cross? I ain't got time for that today. I got Jesus stuff to do. I'm not worried about the world. Maybe this morning you recognize how much you fall short and how much you need it. He died. He gave his life so that we could live. His blood washes and makes us whole. And we invite his presence into our lives as we're baptized into his body for remission of sins and raised up to a new way of doing life with new fruit and focus. Maybe this morning you need to make that change. We'd love to help you do it. Forgot to mention Casey Kemplin got baptized last Sunday night into Christ. That's exciting, isn't it? Excited for him. We'd love to have some more to be excited about this morning. And if it's something you need to do, we're ready and willing to help you. Or maybe you just need to reorient yourself. You've already done those things. You need to refocus your life, and you need the prayers of the church. If there is a way that we can serve or assist you, we invite you now to come while we stand, while we